Sitting in the middle of my parents' feather bed, I was admiring the new dress Mama had made for me to wear on this special Sunday in 1945. I was almost 4 years old. My dress had been made from the scraps of the one Mama had sewn for herself. When Mama and Daddy married, they joined a strict Pentecostal church up on Crow Mountain near Russellville, Arkansas. The women of this church all dressed the way we see women dressed in the cults today when the federal agents raid their compounds. Their dresses were not stylish. Their hair was usually worn up in a bun or rolled back off their faces. There were absolutely no makeup. This went against all that was my mother. As a teenager, my mother loved fashion and spent hours on her makeup and hair, which was cut in the fashionable bob of that era. But that was her childhood. We must now return to the days of mine. Sunday was the day we dressed up and went to church. We went every Sunday morning and stayed for Sunday afternoon singing and dinner on the ground. Sunday nights, Wednesday and Friday nights were church nights, unless there was a revival going on. In that case, add Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday nights. But I was telling you about my little navy blue crepe dress. It had 3 tiny pink buttons on the bodice. My dress fell just a couple of inches above my knees. It covered the bruises on my legs if I held it close to me. Even at that age, I'd learned to hide the bruises. Mama had made me a new dress for this particular Sunday because there was going to be a special prayer service for me. I had started having asthma and it was getting worse. I was anxious and scared about this prayer service because I didn't want the preacher to pray for me. I didn't even like going to church, and I didn't believe his prayer was going to help me. The preacher had said if I didn't believe, God wouldn't heal me. So I suppose I was already a goner. When one of us children was singled out for any reason, it was a bad thing. We would begin to cry and tremble. We were never singled out for anything good. Fear began building as Mama dressed me and combed my hair. The night before, she had rolled my hair up on socks. She rolled it up while it was still wet, so it would curl better. She now carefully unrolled the socks, leaving a long curl where each sock had been. The result was a head full of long, dangling, dark curls. I sound adorable. Though my mother forever saw great evil in me. I hoped Mama didn't know what I was thinking. She was already looking at me as though she wanted to hit me again. If she knew I didn't have faith in the preacher's ability to have God heal me, I would get the belt. It was an uncomfortable car ride to the church. Uncomfortable is a benign word when referring to my state of mind when in the presence of my parents. Anytime we were forced to be in close proximity to our parents, we were overwhelmed with fear. Since the attention was being directed toward me, I was terrified. The church service had arrived at that point in time for the preacher to announce that I was the object of this Sunday morning's special prayer. That familiar feeling of blind panic took over and I had to fight the urge to run. I was always thinking about running away. It was never going to happen because I knew the consequences when I would inevitably be caught. That was sufficient reason for me to sit still and be quiet. The preacher called us up to the front of the church. My daddy picked me up and set me on the altar. Everything became very quiet, except my heart, which was beating fast, hard, and much too loud. The preacher took a small bottle of what he referred to as holy oil from the pulpit and put a little of it on his finger, then touched my forehead. Suddenly all hell broke loose. He grabbed my head with both hands and started yelling and shaking my head. That's the way Pentecostal preachers prayed. They yelled. As soon as I saw the bottle of oil up close, I recognized the shape. It was olive oil. When the preacher's hand got close to me, the smell of it confirmed my suspicions. We had that stuff at home, and it couldn't heal anything. Mama heated it up to give her hair a hot oil treatment. My mom and daddy were standing beside the preacher as he started his loud praying. They were being quiet and had their eyes closed. This was the preacher's show. I wished he would stop yelling and shaking my head, which was beginning to hurt. I sat very still, making tight little fists as I waited for the yelling to stop. I had discovered this coping mechanism the hard way. I was embarrassed to be on display and wanted to go somewhere and hide. There was always the danger that I would unwittingly do something that would ensure that I get the living hell beat out of me. Being on display almost guaranteed it would happen. The more I tried to behave myself, the more trouble I seemed to get into. I knew Mom and Daddy blamed me for having asthma. Maybe the preacher was angry with me also. Finally, my part of the show was over. The preacher stopped yelling and shaking my head. He helped me down off the altar. I followed Mama and Daddy as we traipsed back to our pew and prepared for another hour and a half of yelling and shouting by the preacher. Only now, the parishioners would be able to join in. As I sat by my daddy, I could feel my chest tightening as I breathed. Perhaps my asthma would worsen, as I had been an unwilling participant in this prayer service. So there I sat, barely 4 years old, and already I disliked church, and I did not believe that God was listening to that loud, angry man who prayed for me. My breathing became even more difficult as the shouting of the congregation became louder. I stared down at my little tight fist, realizing I had sealed my own fate with my stubborn, rebellious disbelief.